You must have a commerce background to pursue CFA.
This is absolutely a myth.
Students who are weak at maths cannot do CFA.
That is also not true because...
You must clear all 3 levels in one go.
Okay, so ideally, yes.
Clearing CFA will make you a fund manager immediately.
No, this is a myth.
Hi Bhaiya. There are a few notions that students have about CFA. I want you to tell me if it is a myth or a reality. So let's start. Is CFA only about the stock market?
I'll give you a clarification whether it's a myth or a reality, but I'm going to be explaining it a bit. So when we talk about CFA, it is not just about stock markets, because when you see the 10 subjects in CFA level 1 and level 2, in level 3, a couple of subjects get omitted and there's more focus on the pathways and specialization. We'll come to that in a bit. But you have one subject which is equity, which is into equity valuation. There's a subject on portfolio also, which could be used for equity valuation, fund managers, and also for wealth managers, etc. There is financial statement analysis, wherein you learn how to read and analyze financial reports. It's not about accounts or preparing accounts. It's about reading accounts. That could be done to work in a rating agency, to give a loan or not to give a loan to a company. It could be for valuation of equity. It could be to take strategic decisions about a company. There is corporate issuers, which is about corporate finance, mergers, acquisitions, etc. So you have fixed income, which is not equity valuation, which is about debt market, bond market, etc. You've got economics, the application of which is going to be all across the finance, business, market domain. So you have to understand that it is a diverse course focused on finance, but the subjects within finance are totally diverse. So you cannot say that CFA is a course on equity or stock markets, although it is a part of it and an integral one for that matter.
You need to be really fluent in English to clear the CFA exams.
So level 1 में आपको exams attempt करना है MCQ. So आपको question English में पढ़ना होगा. The question paper is not available in any other language. MCQ questions है तो आपको sentences नहीं लिखने हैं, लेकिन ऑथर का जो सोचना है, जो स्टेटमेंट है, वो समझना पड़ेगा. सो आपका कॉम्प्रिहेंशन इंग्लिश हैज़ टू बी वेरी गुड इन लेवल 1. वी आर आंसरिंग MCQ क्वेश्चंस. इन लेवल 2 व्हाट हैपेंस इज आपको एक केस दिया है और उसके ऊपर भी MCQ क्वेश्चंस ही हैं. तो आपको स्टेटमेंट लिखना नहीं है, सेंटेंसेस लिखने नहीं है, MCQ आंसर करना है. बट यू हैव टू अंडरस्टैंड द केस, कॉम्प्रिहेंडेड कि ऑथर क्या लिखने की कोशिश कर रहा है, एंड उसके बेसिस पर करेक्टली MCQ क्वेश्चंस आंसर करने हैं. So writing does not come in over here, and also communication does not come in over here in levels 1 and 2. Level 3 में you have a mix. So 50% questions आप MCQ attempt कर रहे हो, 50% या 40% questions में आप MCQ ही मार्क कर रहे हो, लेकिन साथ में उसका explanation, reason या कुछ 2-3 points लिखना पड़ेगा. लंबे ऐसे टाइप आंसर्स नहीं लिखने हैं. Although we call it essay type, but Indian education के point of view से जो हम लोग essay जिसको बोलते हैं लंबे लंबे pages after pages, वैसा नहीं है. आपको अगर question पता है तो लिख लोगे, नहीं पता है तो नहीं लिखोगे, गाय पे निबंध नहीं चलेगा. So simple what happens is they will ask you कि ये to explain this कि ये investor high risk ले सकता है कि low risk, and give 2 reasons. तो आपको 2 reasons लिखने हैं. वो reasons आपको clear simple English में लिखना है, fancy English का कोई ज़रूरत नहीं है. आपका रीजनिंग करेक्ट होना चाहिए, करिकुलम के अनुसार होना चाहिए, एंड दैट इज व्हाट यू हैव टू डू. सो रिटन इंग्लिश कम्स इन लेवल 3, बट दैट इज नॉट एसेज. इट इज गोइंग टू बी शॉर्ट आंसर्स, ऑब्जेक्टिव आंसर्स जो हम लोग इंडियन एग्जाम्स में बोलते हैं वैसा. बट एट द सेम टाइम थोड़ा सा एक एग्जाम्पल देता हूँ स्कूल लेवल का. हम लोग एक अनसीन कॉम्प्रिहेंशन करके इंग्लिश ग्रामर के पेपर में आता था. सो उसमें क्या होता था, एक रैंडम एक पैसेज दिया हुआ रहता था 1-1.5 पेज का प्रॉबली, एंड उसके ऊपर 5-6 क्वेश्चंस होते थे जो हम लोग को सॉल्व करने पड़ते थे. नाउ व्हाट हैपेंस इज दैट कुड बी फ्रॉम एनीवेयर एब्सोल्युटली. नाउ इवन व्हेन यू आर लुकिंग एट द CFA क्वेश्चंस, यू हैव टू अंडरस्टैंड द अप्रोच ऑफ द क्वेश्चन, कि ऑथर क्या पूछना चाह रहा है, क्वेश्चन क्या है. एथिक्स के क्वेश्चन होते हैं, कंफ्यूजिंग हो सकते हैं, तो अगर वो पढ़ करके उस क्वेश्चन का करेक्ट मीनिंग नहीं समझोगे तो आंसर भी करेक्ट नहीं कर पाओगे. सो कॉम्प्रिहेंशन भी इंपॉर्टेंट है, एंड यहाँ पर आप फिनेंस के अलग अलग एरियाज़ के ऊपर क्वेश्चंस पढ़ रहे हो. सो दैट इज़ वाई मैं लेवल 1 के स्टार्टिंग से ही स्टूडेंट्स को बोलना शुरू करता हूँ, एंड आई स्टार्ट सेंडिंग देम ऑल्सो दैट यू नीड टू स्टार्ट रीडिंग, मे बी थोड़ा सा बिजनेस न्यूज़ वगैरह, कुछ रिसर्च आर्टिकल्स पढ़ने पड़ते हैं. सो यू स्टार्ट गेटिंग कंफर्टेबल एंड अकस्टम्ड टू financial content is what you need to start building from level 1 itself. And you have to understand that once you start working, you'll have to write reports. You'll have to be able to improve not only on your written but also on your oral communication workplace में. सो मैं तो लेवल 1 से ही तुम लोग को पुश करना शुरू कर देता हूँ कि अपने कम्युनिकेशन पर, लैंग्वेज पर, इन सब चीज़ों पर ध्यान दो. एंड देर कुड बी प्रोफाइल्स, आई नो पीपल इन वेल्थ मैनेजमेंट जिनका काम है क्लाइंट्स के साथ बात करना, समझना, और वो मारवाड़ी में बात करके भी क्लाइंट को पटा लेते हैं. So that is absolutely fine. If that is the job role you're looking for, you need to be able to comprehend the language very well on the exam paper. But communication, if that is your job role, it's fine. But for most of the corporate side of roles and all, a good hold of English, is going to be helpful. So we cannot deny that. So it's better that you start working towards it.
Clearing CFA will make you a fund manager immediately.
No, this is a myth, because you might become a fund manager for your personal portfolio, but not in a fund house. Nobody is going to be trusting hundreds of crores of AUM or thousands of crores of assets under management in your hand if you do not have work experience. So normally students start with the equity research side of it and graduate up to becoming a fund manager. You're an associate, then you're an analyst, you're covering different stocks, then sectors, and then you have that expertise. You've seen different business cycles, different political elections and everything, and how the market reacts in those situations. Then you graduate up to the level of a fund manager, which is one of the profiles in finance. In fact, there's a lecture on YouTube which I had shot with Aditya Khemka, who's the CIO at Incred right now. He shared his experience as to how from a treasury role in a pharma company, then into equity research in the pharma space, and then a fund manager, and now a CIO. You must watch that.
Students who are weak at maths cannot do CFA.
That is also not true, because when we are talking about mathematics as a subject, you have arithmetic, algebra, and geometry. And students actually get more paranoid with calculus and trigonometry that comes in later. So maths itself is a very broad domain. When we talk about CFA, there are three prominent areas that we cover. 10 to 15% is about money-related calculations. Even if you're bad at money-related calculations, you'll have to learn how to calculate EMIs, to invest your savings, to be able to grow for your retirement. Right? So you cannot do away with it. So that is a mandatory calculation that I believe everybody should know. Another 10% could be about probability. And also anybody who's making any decision about the future, even in the marketing, HR kind of domain, you have to think about the probabilities or the chances of something in future to take decisions. Now, I don't remember the Bayes theorem formula, but I can derive it, and I don't even use that in the classroom when we are doing sums. So one need not be paranoid about it. 70-80% of maths, or quants as we call it in CFA, or FRM for that matter, is going to be statistics. So statistics is something that generally students study in 11 and 12, and that to a very beginning level of, formulas to calculate mean and standard deviation and all. But in our finance space, we try to understand the formula of standard deviation, etc. from scratch, and take the statistics part a lot forward. So one need not be worrying about it. It's just that you'll have to put in a little extra effort maybe, and have a very open-minded approach when we are studying a subject like quants. And that is just one out of the 10 subjects in level 1 and 2 of CFA. In level 3 CFA, quants is not there. Even in FRM part 2, quants is not there. So you need not worry about it, because in any professional exam, you might not like or be a little scared of 10-15% of the chapters. The rest of it is there, and you can obviously cover up and work hard for it.
You must have a commerce background to pursue CFA.
Definitely, this is a myth. Because when you're talking about commerce students, they're going to be having an edge with the subject financial statement analysis. But please understand, there are 10 subjects, equity, derivatives, etc. They're all new subjects to the commerce students as well. Engineering students might have an edge in quants subject, because they might have studied a lot of numbers and statistics, etc. Economics honors students could have an edge in economics subject. So different students might have an edge in a couple of chapters, but that does not mean that CFA is only supposed to be pursued by finance students or commerce students only. Because I've got a lot of students who are pursuing engineers and in fact bachelors in pharma, etc. And they're all studying finance, because finance is all about ultimately money and corporates and decision making and money making. So yeah.
You need to study for 8 to 10 hours daily to pass CFA.
So this could be a myth, this could be a reality, depending on when have you registered for the exam. So if you're preparing for an exam and you've registered just 3 months before, then obviously it's going to be a reality. But if you've registered for the exam 6 months before and you're a full-time student, you're a working professional, registered 7, 8, 10 months before the exam, 7, 8, 9 months, let's say. So in that case, it's not going to be a reality. And also what happens is people focus their study hours particularly during weekends, especially if they're working professionals and all. And of course, before the exam, if you're talking about the time when you're revising and in the next 2 weeks or 3 weeks, you have your exam, you would be finding yourself studying 8, 10, 12 hours a day as well. But it depends on when you've registered. And also, I would like to say that it also depends on how focused you are. So if you check your phone 3 or 4 times per hour, then you might need to study for 8, 10 hours. But if you check your phone once in 2, 3 hours, then a 3 hours or 5 hours of deep study is also good enough. So it depends on your focus, on your attention, on how maturely you take professional exams, how you handle stress. All of these things are important. And that's why I keep on, adding to the students that you need to be able to manage stress. You need to have the right approach to the exam. So these things also become very important when you're preparing.
Mugging up and studying hard is enough to get you through the CFA exams.
So of course it is a myth. So firstly, you have to understand that you're going to be applying your knowledge to answer questions because the questions are MCQ. So it is not that you can mug up and write definitions and pointers and get through with the exams, because you will have an MCQ question where there are 3 options and there's no negative marking as well. In fact, if your concepts and your foundation is not strong, you will end up marking the wrong answer because in the options there is something called a distractor. So the silly mistake you'll make or the conceptual error you'll have is going to be one of the options. So the option is not random because there is no negative marking. So that is also the reason when I'm teaching, I make it a point that students need to understand what are the mistakes not to make, what are the issues to avoid, and where all the conceptual clarity is needed, or even, the interconnection between subjects is needed.
You can't study for CFA along with a full-time job.
So firstly, it is a myth, and I very strongly recommend you not to sit at home and study. If your graduation is done, you're supposed to be working and studying alongside. Instead of 6 months, you take an exam in 9 months. Instead of completing CFA in 2 years after your graduation, you do it in 3 years or 3.5 years. I'll give you a simple answer. Think of 5 years from today. After 5 years, you can either have 2 years you completed CFA and 3 years of work ex, so CFA plus 3 year work ex. Or you prepare for CFA along with job in over 3.5 years, but you have a 5-year work ex and a CFA together. So which one do you think is better? Obviously the second option. In fact, even if you're doing graduation right now, I strongly and sincerely recommend you delay your exam from 6 to 9 months, but make sure to participate in as many inter-college fests and competitions, do participate in college activities, clubs, societies, etc., and do your internships alongside because you need to level up your profile holistically.
Qualifying CFA is enough to get a job.
No. So this is a myth because when you do a CFA, you're telling the recruiter that I have a very good mastery in the subjects in finance. That is equity, derivatives, portfolio, etc. But whether you will be able to work with people, whether your communication is okay, whether you can write an equity research report, let's say, whether you can use an Excel to build a financial model, whether you're working in a rating agency or a corporate finance role or whatever role, you have technical skills to execute that work. You need to have that emotional acumen, that ability to apply your studies to a job role, right? So you have to build on all those things if you want to get a job. In the interview, they will not give you finance questions because institute has already tested you that. They will try to understand whether you are able to apply that knowledge of finance in the designated role or not.
The difficulty of the exams doubles from level 1 to 2 and from 2 to 3.
So definitely this is a myth and absolutely incorrect, I would say. So having taken all the levels myself and with 13 years of teaching, I can definitely vouch for it. It is not double. Level 1, the syllabus is a little more extensive. There are new topics and new terms and new subjects that are being introduced to. That is the difficulty part in level 1. But the content is not that difficult. And especially you're not supposed to mug up. Level 2 gets into a little more depth of the same subjects. That might cause a little difficulty for the students. I would say level 2 would be a couple of notches maybe above level 1, but not even double or not even like 50% more difficult. Also, there are item set questions. You have a passage and you have 5-6 MCQs on it. And students get accustomed to it with practice, so that is not an issue. Level 3, you're focusing more on the portfolio. There are 2-3 subjects which are eliminated at the third level. You have a specialization pathway as well. But there is essay type answers, which is not essay type as in Indian context. you have to write short answer questions. So you have to write objective answer type questions. So that students find a little difficult in level 3, because till level 2 you were just marking MCQ answers. Here you have to type out the answers. So you have to remember a little more. So that learning element comes in the level 3 exams. So that students might find a little difficult, but that is how I would grade level 1, 2 and 3. Level 2 might be a couple of notches above. Level 2 and 3, I would say just one notch above. That is also for writing the answers, but not otherwise. So it's absolutely incorrect. It's not double the difficulty for sure.
Only brainiacs can pass the exam.
That is not true. So firstly, I'm not sure how do you define a brainiac. Secondly, it's not that you need to be a geek for the exam or something like that. In fact, there are so many students who've come to me and said that they were not enjoying studying so much before, during college or during school days, but now they are, because also they are going to be applying all this that they're studying. The subjects are new. In fact, so many students who may not have done very well in 10 and 12 take this as an opportunity during college, irrespective of whether they are pursuing a CFA, CA, FRM, MBA, whatsoever they are pursuing, because now they are closer to making their career. So they automatically get more interested, they're more focused because they need to work towards their career, and the content and the subject is very interesting. There's no mugging up per se that is needed, and it's all application based. It's all fun to see. I enjoy finance, so I thoroughly enjoy finance. So I don't think it's for brainiacs, but it is for candidates who are serious enough to be able to complete the syllabus, to do the revision, to do a decent level of practice, and attempt the exam with sincerity that a professional exam desires. So that is all I would say. You don't need to be a brainiac. You need to be somebody who's sincere, or who's wanting to be sincere to create a career for themselves.
You must clear all 3 levels in one go.
Okay. So ideally, yes, I would want a student to clear and pass all the 3 levels in one go. There's a lot of money at stake as well. There's a lot of time and effort that has been put into it. So yes, but from the point of recruiter, it is not just the number of attempts that you've passed your CFA in. It is also about your soft skills, your technical skills, and your work experience. For example, somebody with 3 years of work experience then starts to attempt CFA exams. And just before the exam, he has a very important project or a client deliverable, or he's involved in a fundraise for an IPO. At that point of time, he needs to prioritize his work, and maybe he might skip the exam, might take the exam just for the sake of it and attempt it. So there are students and working professionals who do it in this regard. And at times they may not be able to clear in the very first attempt. But it is important that when you're studying for the exam, you prepare with the right approach, with the right mindset, with the objective of passing it and not take it lightly. You take your 6 months to 9 months time frame for an exam. If you're a working professional, plan for the upcoming projects and workload, etc. and accordingly schedule your exam. And study very hard, do not take it lightly. But yes, the passing rate is somewhere between 40 to 50% across the 3 levels. So there is a 50% student bracket, those who attempt exam who do not pass. But I have seen students who do not even complete their syllabus, and many who do not complete their revision and take the exam. So if you want your true pass rate, I would love to calculate it from the pool of students who've 100% completed the syllabus, 100% completed revision before the exam. A bare minimum level of practice has been done. Out of that, I can tell you that the pass rate is going to be much higher. So you have to respect your professional exams and take it seriously.
CFA charter holders are better than MBAs.
So firstly, you have to understand that CFA and MBA are 2 separate courses. CFA is about finance, where the subjects are equity, derivatives, portfolio, corporate issuers, financial statement analysis, etc. And MBA is a course in management, wherein you have organizational behavior, HR, marketing, finance, all of these. You can take a specialization in finance in your second year in MBA mostly. And in CFA also, in level 3, you have specializations, which is into portfolio management, private markets, and private wealth. Also, when you're looking at CFA and MBA, MBA is a full-time 2-year residential course in all cases, 1 year in certain colleges. CFA, you can prepare while you are working full-time. So your work experience and income also keeps on getting added while you prepare. CFA would be costing somewhere approximately 3 lakh rupees, whereas an MBA is going to be costing 20 to 30 lakh rupees at the minimum. So when you're comparing the profile of a CFA and MBA candidate, you also need to see if a CFA candidate has worked and leveled up his writing skills, communication skills, technical skills, etc. What is the existing level of work experience they have, the overall level of grooming, and also compare the ranking of college that the MBA candidate is coming from. So you need to compare the profiles holistically rather than comparing one designation with the other.
Employers avoid to hire CFA candidates and focus only on hiring the charter holders.
So I think this is a myth and not a reality. Because when recruiters are shortlisting your profiles, they're not just looking at your designation or your degree, they're also going to be interviewing you holistically in terms of your soft skills, your attitude to work, your technical skills, and all of those things. So whether you're able to communicate well in an interview, whether you're good with Excel, etc., so all those things matter. So while they are checking your credentials and if you're pursuing CFA, they understand that you've got the knowledge of level 1 only or level 2 only. But more importantly, I'm telling you that the recruiters are going to be checking how many leaves are you going to be needing for your exams and how much efficient you will be at your job. So if you're spacing out your exam 6 to 9 months, and if you're sure about your work ethic and you can work hard and you can prove it to the recruiter, they will not have a problem. Rather, they would be happy because you'll be applying your knowledge while learning and you'll be leveling up along with them. But the work ethic part is something that you need to prove yourself during the interview process. And of course, you cannot be looking at pay scales that is available to experienced charter holders when you are pursuing a level 1 or 2 right now. So your compensation is going to be a function of your overall personality, your existing work experience, and your education so far. Also, with respect to the profile you're applying your job for.
CFA is not a degree, but a certification.
So CFA stands for Chartered Financial Analyst. Now CFA Institute is located in the US, which is providing the charter CFA. Now charter can be used as a legal term. So every country will have its own legal terminology. So you may or may not be allowed to issue a charter in a particular country. A degree generally is something that a university is providing. A college like a BCom or an MCom or something where the university is giving you the degree. So CFA could be meant, I would rather call it a designation, that where against your name you can write a CFA if you have qualified all the 3 levels and you've submitted your work experience details and gotten the charter. But any which ways across the world, since it's a global body and the exams take place in 100 plus countries probably, so you can always write your name and a CFA or that you have passed 3 levels of CFA, and it's about the credibility of the credential where a recruiter or recognizes that you have a mastery in the finance domain because you have passed XYZ levels of CFA. That's how I would look at it, as a designation, as a charter, as a certification, but from a legal standpoint, not a degree. It is also considered master's equivalent in many countries, and students can pursue PhD after CFA without actually doing masters. CA is considered master's equivalent in India. I don't know if you knew that.
Once you get the charter, learning stops.
No, I think it is absolutely to the contrary. So this is an absolute myth, and it's supposed to be a myth for your good, because today when you're looking at AI, today when you're looking at the kind of technology, industrial shifts, etc. happening, it is extremely important that you continue learning, continue studying. So depending on your profile, depending on your job, depending on your role, your business, your industry, you have to continuously upgrade yourself, reading con calls and annual reports of different companies, reading technology, what is happening in that space, competitors, books, podcasts, etc. Everything today, because there's so much of changes that is happening in the next few years are going to be really tricky. So be very, very much on your toes in terms of learning. Even if you're pursuing CFA right now, make sure that you're studying and doing a lot of things alongside.